Chief, thank you very much. You're welcome, sir. Okay, this is the unmanned aircraft integration into search and rescue. And for those folks that didn't hear me earlier, there's a handout on your seat if you're lucky enough to get one. Sure, there's enough to go around. If you haven't gotten one, see if you can get your hands on one, because the room isn't filled to capacity like I thought it was going to be. We could easily talk the entire afternoon with just the content that's in the book that you just received. It's a white paper that is part of the next book that I'm going to write concerning the obstacles to UA insertion into a disaster area or into a disaster situation. The other part of that handout is the Plano search that we performed in Plano, Texas, with complete approval of the FAA and the process that we went through to get that COA and the areas that we flew, how we documented it, and how we reported it back to Incident Command. So it was just one of those really nice cases that I had the opportunity to be able to document very closely and give it to you guys so that you can see how we've done it in the past. It may not be the right way. It certainly is not the wrong way, because it's been accepted many times, many places. So you have an example to work with, and I think you'll find a lot of good answers in the previous portion of it as well. Now, quick question. Who all has heard this presentation before? Has anybody?
The one last year?
Yeah. Okay. Okay, then start reading, because you're going to get the same one this year. Because we tried to decide how best to show the progression of search and rescue, and then when we thought about it, we said, we didn't do a Search 101, so, how do you call it Search 102? How do you determine who's seen what? So we decided to start with the same basic presentation that we gave last year, supplement it with the handout that you just received, and I'm going to try to go through this as expeditiously as possible, and then we're going to open up the floor for discussion, and we can talk about some of the scenarios that we've encountered in the 10 years that we have been doing search and rescue in national airspace. And I can say that since last year, the book says that we were in 35 states and 4 countries. You can up that to 38 states, because we've gone into 3 additional states since then. Okay, the first year I put this on, I failed to warn people that there could be deceased individuals in this slideshow. It's an unfortunate part of search and rescue. If you're squeamish about that sort of things, just let you know right up front, it's not graphic, but it is something that shows what the aircraft is capable of and what you can expect to see when you're using it in this fashion. So just be warned that we'll see some people who are in situ and deceased. This is the timetable that we try to use, and it usually doesn't work this way, but we're going to go as quickly as we can. We'll try to do the slideshow in 55 minutes or so. I've been advised that we're going to have to stop for the cameraman when the SD card fills up, so there'll be a little break in there sometimes. So this is kind of out the door, but it's going to be close to what we're going to be trying to stick to. Okay, RP Search Services, who are we? RP Flight Systems is a company that I started in 2005 to produce the flying wing aircraft that is a Spectral that you see. We try to read out all the bad habits, because a flying wing is not supposed to be stable, it won't carry any weight, can't fly in any other conditions there unless they're pristine and poppycock. We took care of that. We read all those bad habits out. This aircraft will fly from 0 to 50 mile-an-hour winds, and it'll fly in and out of just about anything you ask it to do. So we felt like we put together a pretty good search and rescue, or all-around aerial platform for taking imagery. I am obviously the CEO and founder of the company. We do training. We've been doing it for 10 years. We have a somewhat checkered past with the FAA. We've challenged them on a number of occasions. I was named in a lawsuit, or I was one of the only individuals named in a lawsuit suing the FAA for some of their practices last year. You may or may not have heard of it, but it was dismissed on a technicality. out of the 7th Court of Appeals in Washington. The good thing about that case, who all pilots? Show me pilots. Anybody pilots? Okay. What is the worst thing that you can experience when you're out flying an airplane? When you land at the airport and the ground rolls up onto you and says, ramp check. That strikes fear to every pilot's heart. Because that ASI can come up and look through all your logbooks, take your license, take your medical, impound your aircraft. He has that much power. Out of the case, out of this technicality, it got their attention and they sent out a memo after the case was dismissed, a week to the day, and instructed their ASIs that they are no longer to use that sort of tactic. They are only to advise what the current regulations are and educate pilots. So that's one thing that I can say, yeah, we got that changed. So there was some good that came out of it. Other than that, it did get their attention. I've always said, I'm willing to work with you guys if you work with me. And we've been trying to fight our way through that system. And I am very happy to report that we are now flying under a certificate of authorization. I am a member of the Cumberland Fire Department, and we have a public service certificate of authorization that we use with the spectral flying wing, which allows us to go anywhere in the United States under a term called mutual aid. Any agency, any law enforcement agency, fire department, or anything can request mutual aid from anybody else who has the technology. Pretty cool little trick, huh? So all they have to do is submit a request to my chief, and my chief says, yeah, sure, we got it. Yep. And then I submit the risk assessment to the FAA, tell them what area I'm going to fly, and we get to take that COA anywhere in the United States. So that's kind of the way we worked around it. And I'm also very happy to say that I just got a message from my lawyer that my 333 exemption went in. And the 333 exemption is a little bit different than some that you may have heard of, is because we're asking for an exemption nationwide in class 12 airspace up to 400 feet, which is a little different than what everybody else has gotten on their exemptions. So we're keeping our fingers crossed, hoping that the guys at the office, FAA office, smile on us and we can get that in. So what we're going to talk about: equipment selection, environment, sensors and images, data handling, common sense, and legal. Because there is a chain of custody involved in this if you're in a search and rescue. We're going to talk about minor details, what can happen to you in the field when you go out and you're furthest away from any place to get anything to put your aircraft with. We all know what this is. Remodernization Act came out, and this is what kind of cut us off at the knees. But they're starting to allow us to get back out into the NAS, which is a good thing. Either via COA, which is still pretty difficult to get, or via the 333 exemption. So how many people here have actually flown a UA for search and rescue? 1, 2. Okay. Why do you want to do that? Why? Why does anybody want to do search and rescue with an unmanned aircraft?
Added beneficial resource.
Absolutely.
Airline's perspective.
Absolutely.
Instant fast and low cost.
Instant deployment. So
Fast and low cost.
yes, cost, everything, all that fits. You can beat a helicopter, you can beat a manned aircraft, you can be on scene. But when it comes down to it, what kind of commitment are you ready to make? This is a commitment that you have to think very, very hard about. Because a search and rescue operation is not, oh, I'll do it this weekend. It doesn't work that way. It's a midnight call. Hey, we've got a kid missing in the woods. We want to deploy at, oh my God, 30 in the morning. Can you make it? You can't say, God, it's cold, Chief. No, I think I'll stay in bed. It just doesn't work that way. You can try it. You won't get called again. I can tell you that. If you show up and you provide them all the benefits that we just talked about, guess what? They're going to want it again, and they're going to want it often. Because they don't have to call to that Department of Public Safety chopper that's 3 hours away and only has an hour duration before it has to go back and refuel. They're going to want to see that bird out there, whether it's a Spectra or a copter or anything else that you have to offer, because it is so effective. So think about the commitment that you're about to enter into if you're going to say, I'm in search and rescue. I do search and rescue. Something to think about. Okay. Right there at the top. Building trust. You have got to build trust with the people that you're working with. How many law enforcement guys we got out here? One. Okay. It is a brotherhood that is very difficult to reach. If you don't have a commission, you don't know what it's about. Just keep that in mind, right? You are there to help them, yes, but you will never be privy to everything that they have and the information that they have, because you are not law enforcement, except that's just the way it's going to be. But they will rely on you. If they come to trust you as a civilian provider of service, they will rely on you, and they'll call you, and they'll call you often. And you want to be there for them. You really do. Know what your UAS can bring to the scene. Understand your UAS. Talking to the press, that's always a good one. I don't know if you noticed it, or if you've had any experience talking to the press, but you can tell them something, and then when you see it on the news that night, you'll go, where in the heck did they get that? They get about 10% of what you tell them right. So first off, you have to be very careful what you tell them. UAS, drones, I'll say it, drones are a hot topic in the media for many, many different reasons. Choose your words carefully. And if you're working with an agency that has a PIO, Public Information Officer, you don't even say anything. You give your information to the PIO, and he decides what the press gets, or she decides what the press gets. Very important. They don't want you talking to the National Enquirer. Unfortunately, many of the searches that you go on to as a search for a missing person ends up being a crime investigation. Every step you take, every piece of geography that you cover, every picture that you take could be evidence. You could be called upon to be an expert witness. You know, well, Mr. UAV operator, how do you know you were over this certain area? And you're going to have to explain how you knew that. It's GPS, I have a map, I had this, there's a picture of it, I did the overlay on Google, it's all right there, counselor. Okay. You know your system. One of the things that a lot of people don't even know about is NIMS, National Incident Management System. How many people heard about that? Okay, good portion of it. They came up with what they call the ICS, Incident Command System. I highly recommend that you go and complete, right here at this website, that you complete the 2, 3, and 700 series, which is completely free. Once you get in with your law enforcement agency or your search agency, they put on NIMS classes that generally cost money, and they will include you in it, and you can continue that education. But what NIMS does is it teaches you to speak their language. It teaches you how you're going to interface with this machine that can get started in a search and rescue operation. Nepal is an excellent example of that. Mobile Medic is deployed, and they deploy unmanned aircraft when they go. And they're going there, and they're going to start setting up, much like an incident command system, and they will deploy those drones to look at people and look for infrastructure damage, do assessments, and that sort of thing.
Did you say mobile medic?
Yeah. that's, where are they at? Canada, South Canada. I spoke at the UN in January, and there is a very strong push in the UN to get resources like unmanned aircraft out to challenged areas. We talked about how to operate in conflict areas, and it's some pretty exciting stuff. If you have the vision and the wherewithal to do so, you can take your situation worldwide. You can go anywhere in the world. And let me tell you, I never would have in a million years figured that a 4.5-pound piece of foam would have taken me to 38 states and 4 countries. But I stand here and that bird is what has done it for me. And I have been in some of the dangest situations that you ever would hope to get into. So, how far do you want to take it? You need to decide right up front. You want to keep it local? How bad? How big do you want to go? You can go as big as your vision will allow you to go. Risk management, as far as your team is concerned, is priority 1. You need to make sure that safety is the main mode that you operate in. You need to protect the victim. You want to mitigate the disaster. Protect the ground searchers, watch for manned air assets, and protect ground assets, such as cars, boats, whatever. And lastly, you protect your aircraft. What does that mean? Your aircraft is expendable. If you got to ditch it, I don't care how many thousands of dollars you got it, you ditch it. If it's going to hurt somebody else, do no harm first and foremost. What you going to use? Pick your poison. They all have pluses and minuses. I kind of laugh and put that one in there because nobody hardly ever uses a blimp for that sort of thing. This is one of the first tricopters that we could come up with that we ever used on a search, and that was, it looked like a massive wires on a Y and some others, but by golly, it worked. And it worked well. And we saw the benefit then of what we could get with a copter. We just weren't real good at putting them together, and I was terrible at flying. Because all we had was the gyros and didn't have flight control systems for it. But it still looked very promising. What mode are you going to operate in? Manual, visual line of sight, that gives you a reasonable excuse that you will just fly an RC aircraft if you wanted to go that way. It's the most difficult. You have to have some time under your belt to determine your altitude correctly and be able to make sure you get 100% coverage. First person view. FAA don't like that at all. They have posted very strong objections toward first person view. So if you are going for any sort of exemption or COA or anything like that, do not rely on first person view as one of your control methods, because it will be rejected. I can tell you that up front. And then of course the gold standard, autonomous onboard navigation control. And we all know that there's really no such thing as autonomous vehicle. As Jim Williams said yesterday, it's a highly automated vehicle. But for the most part, there's somebody on the ground watching it, maybe twiddling the sticks a little bit, guiding it here and there. So, you know, it's autonomous, we'll call it that, you know, just to say, give it a good turn. And I don't think we're going to go through this set of slides pretty quickly because I don't think you need the explanation about manual mode and RC. It's simplest, got fewer moving parts, you can move quick, you know, shortest range, and the potential for incomplete coverage. When I first started doing this without a flight control system, I lost sleep at night wondering whether I missed a 10-foot section, because that person could be in that 10-foot section. And I have to admit, there was a couple, and my wife used to be about this all the time, that once you fly to a position and you think you've covered it, fly a little bit more. Because I've had 2 incidences where I flew a known area and the individual was just outside that area by a quarter of a mile, which for an unmanned aircraft is nothing. It's nothing. So you need to make sure that you get as much of the area as you possibly can and more. Do we really need to go with the first-person view? I mean, it was there last year because it was something that we could throw in as a potential. It's really not from a regulatory standpoint and seriously from a professional standpoint that you can consider. We know what the pros are of automated. We can use our flight control systems to grid search. We can set overlaps. We get different angles on the same piece of property, and that's the big deal right there. You don't miss any spots. You get different views of the same spot, because on this pass you're looking this way, and on this pass you're looking that way. And that angle difference, that change, can expose a clue that makes the difference. You could see the tension. You could see a piece of clothing, a color. And that's the thing that we're trying to do. We're looking for clues. We're trying to get all the information we can to the searchers on the ground so that they can go out and clear the objects that we detect. Okay, hot and cold. I mean, we know what that does. You know, you get really, really hot. You know what happens to batteries? You have to watch thermal overload if you're using LiPos. Your video will brown out if you're using video, which, by the way, I don't recommend. But you got to watch your IMU temperature. And my favorite is, standing out in the sun and staying hydrated. You got to keep up with all that stuff, and everyone's favorite is heat stroke. Cold weather, I can't put on enough clothes these days, so I don't particularly care for it too much. But again, batteries start dropping in output. Your electronics generally do pretty well. If you have an LCD, it can freeze. Had one up on Mount Hood, 2011, when the climbers went missing up there, we had an LCD freeze on us. Oops. 2 is 1, 1 is none. Luckily, we had one in the cabin that worked. So, there you go. Wind exposure, decreased vision, and besides all that, it's just freezing. Period. If you're having to use your digits out there in the cold, it doesn't take long for them to get pretty naked. A little bit of recap. Environment's planned for desert, mountains, altitude. I'm a flatlander. I'll be the first to admit it. I like, sea level. I like to breathe. Forest is always a challenge, especially for ground searchers. If you have a big canopy, sometimes the GPS doesn't always penetrate well. Getting better, granted, getting better. But you have to help them. Terrain is always an issue because you generally tend to have a lot of vertical terrain as well. Sea, salt water, and electronics, let me tell you, this don't mix. Fresh water is one thing, but salt water, you can forget it. They're done. Lakes and rivers. We have 3 finds that were in the water. One of the finds, and I want to make this clear, no matter what the water looks like, from an aerial advantage with a camera looking straight down, you can see into some of the murkiest water that you would ever imagine. One of our finds was an individual. It was the very first image of the very first flight in the Houston Ship Channel. And if anybody has ever seen a picture of the Houston Ship Channel, it looks like milk chocolate. It is nasty. But we saw that individual, neutral buoyancy. I may even have a picture in here as we get to it. But he was neutral buoyant, about 3 feet below the surface. We saw his t-shirt and his tennis shoes, clear as bell. But our team went out and said, wow, how did y'all find him? First picture, first flight. Imagine the resources that we saved. They were ready to mount a full-on search, full mobile ICU, full complement of officers, horses, ATVs, the whole 9 yards. How much money do you think we saved with that first picture? A couple of bucks, huh? One of the things that most people don't think about in the FAA pointed this out to me is critters. I was asked, I'm flying the desert, come on guys, miles away from any GA, no aviation could be flying around. Well, there could be something. And they said, well, what if you get bit by a snake? That would count. So, first place. He said, well, okay, if you pass out because you got bit by a snake, because you're going to land the airplane. And I had a hard time arguing with him at the point. I could get bit by a snake, but I could also hit the return to home before I passed out. But there was no argument. One of the things that we discovered, we did a lot of searches in the High Sierra Desert, Gulf Valley, and south of San Diego in the Cuyamaca area, and there's no shade. It was terrible. We hiked up this hill and it was nothing but all these boulders. And the first thing that we did was put some shade up. The guys took tarps with them, and they set up this little thing and set up tied ropes between boulders, and we at least had shade. And let me tell you what, we spent the day out there, and that patch of shade was worth a lot of money by the end of the day. So little things like that, prepare for where you're going to go. This big old crack in the ground is the 4.2 earthquake that happened on the San Diego border, Mexico here just a couple of years ago. And the Mexican government had us go down there and do some infrastructure shooting for them. They didn't have any problem with us flying around out there, it was great. And there is our quadcopter again that shot those pictures. And what do you think? Sandy, dusty, wind blowing, grit. You couldn't even put your teeth together without them crunching. It was pretty disgusting. Same thing with cameras. We had to protect our cameras because they were getting that same grit in them. Had a guy tag along with us that had a parasail. We put that guy up. This is our mobile command unit, which was an armored Federale vehicle. And our little patch antenna set up there. And homeboy here, he generally stepped out with a Car 15 rifle, automatic rifle, and we kept asking him why, and he finally said, because banditos. So bad guys come through here all the time. I'm like, oh, great. So that's another thing that you don't even think about. We didn't even consider Mexico as being a conflict zone, right? Remember that term, conflict zone, because if you have worldwide aspirations, you need to remember that a conflict zone is where you could get shot, okay? For no particular reason, or a particular reason because you're flying something that they're afraid of. Something. Search we did in the Sierra Nevadas. We had to hike in. I don't hike. I don't like hiking. Once you get up to about 8,000 feet, there's not enough air up there for me to put one foot in front of the other. But we did it. We went up there, and we found the individual he had fallen off a cliff. And the Rangers had walked by him and didn't see him. They couldn't see him because it was one of these. And we launched and flew out there, and we could see all the way down to the base, and there it was. That launch was at 12,500 feet. There was really no air up there, at least for me anyway. Communications was almost non-existent up there. You're on your own. You're at your own devices. Cell service was non-existent. If you're flying autonomous and you need maps, that sort of thing, you have to bring your own. Otherwise, you're flying blind. So that's something to consider as well. And here, this is my big one. I know your limits. I'll be the first to admit to guys, I don't want to go above 12,000 feet anymore. Well, I'll leave it to the other guys to do that. That's a smart thing. That's just a smart thing to do. Because you can end up compromising the mission before it even gets started. If you get up 12,000 feet and have some PE, a pulmonary embolism or something, they have to cart you back down, well, the surgeon's open, and you're probably dead. This was a search in North Carolina. It was supposed to be the clearest lake in the world, and there was a sailboat back over here that had, unfortunately, had a 5-year-old child entangled in the rigging, and when it went down. But this is an example of who you have to interface with. We had the Red Cross out here, we had an old time unit out there, and you have to interface with all these people. And then what I don't show is back here is the medium. And the media is wanting to get a picture of you flying your airplane, your aircraft, whatever you brought. That's what they want to see. And they want to talk to you badly. So they can get it all wrong and put it out on the news. Be aware of that. Here it is. First picture, first flight. And you can't see it, on the computer you can see it, no problem. But I took off this way. Downtown Houston is just right over there, skyscrapers and all. This individual is right here. And if, I might zoom in. Yeah, there we go. You might see that little smudge. There's just a little bit of a smudge right there in the middle of that circle that you can see on the screen. It's very apparent in the picture on the computer. But we found that guy in like 30 minutes. So it saved a ton of money and resources. Talk about where are you going to fly from? This is one of my more memorable launches. This is the Coeymans Bridge on the Hudson River in upstate New York. There was an individual up there that had been missing since December. And this was just after first thaw. And the police put me out there on this little barge tug. See, that's me with my little orange K-Pop vest on. And I had just launched the airplane off of that. And it's a tremendous leap of faith for you and your equipment when you're standing over there on that expanse of water and you have to throw that airplane and hope the throttle starts.
So you launched it off of the actual barge?
Launched it off of the tug.
Boat?
Yes.
Where did you recover?
In a steel mill slag pit that was on that side of the river. And I basically just had to point it in and hope for the best. And it came through it okay. The Spectre's pretty rugged. It took the beating and did pretty well. And we ended up finding this guy. It was a serial killer out there called Smiley Face Killings. I don't know if y'all know that or not, but they were picking up 28 to 30-year-old males, dark hair with beards, and killing them. And wherever they left killing, they would put a smiley face. You know, who knows what the mind of a criminal does? But this gentleman was unfortunately a victim, and he had been in since December. This is in late April, and we found him again off of the end of a barge there in the Hudson River. Talk about being in boonies. This was a trip that we made to Mongolia. This is in the forbidden zone in Mongolia. No communications, no hobby shops, no hardware stores, nothing. Took 2 airplanes out there, one of them did crash. 2 is 1, 1 is none. Remember that little motto, you don't remember anything else. And we completed the missions that we were tasked to do with the aircraft that remained. What were we doing? It was one of those bucket list things. I wanted to go on a National Geographic expedition. We went on a search for the tomb of Genghis Khan. So that was a couple of years ago. It was pretty exciting. It cost us a lot of money, and the people that we went with were jerks. Oh, did I say that? Please on camera.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Okay, this is where we usually take a break. But if you want to stretch, that's fine. We'll get up. I'm ready to keep going, y'all. Roll it, okay, let's go.
Did you find Genghis Khan?
I'm not allowed to say.
Because they were all
Can you share the video?
Okay, you can show us.
National Geographic wouldn't let us use any of the images that we took. We couldn't talk about it, and if we did, they would sue us. It was just one of those things that, gosh, guys, we took our planes and,
You did it all pro bono.
yeah,
Small print, right?
okay, live and learn, right?
Yeah. So when my interest in expeditions is going down.
So anyway, let's get into sensors. What do you usually fly in an aircraft? You usually do video or you do stills, right? Okay, somebody tell me what is the definition, or I'm saying the resolution of HD video. Do I know?
1920 by 1080.
What is it? How many megapixels?
2.1.
Megapixels is different.
It's,
2 meg. It's the same.
it's the same resolution. It's 5 megapixels. HD video is 5 megapixels. Okay, Extreme HD or 4K is coming out, has upped that significantly. But we have just started using that, so I'm not going to comment too much on what 4K will get you. It does get you some stunning video, there's no question about it. Its use in a search situation, though, has yet to be proven because we use 10 megapixel still imagers. And why not use 20 megapixels? Why not? Yes, sir.
The sensors, is it limited in terms of, you got the 30, but then you lose that perspective in terms of the depth?
Sure, and you gotta
Because
recognize
the sensors are still really super small.
yeah, the sensors are small, but they're getting bigger. And what most people don't understand is with a typical camera, like a point-and-shoot camera, is it's optimized for the center, say 70% of the sensor. And you'll hear people talking about purple fringing and edge fuzziness and stuff like that, sphericity, that makes the outer edges questionable for use when you're doing search and rescue, but still better than video. Because the video sensor has the same issues, but just the video.
Well, that's more the lens than the sensor.
Yeah, right. I mean, and lenses, one of the things that we did, we used Panasonic Lumix, the LX series, 2s, 3s, 4s, that sort of thing, because I've always liked the Leica glass.
Yep.
That's what makes the image for me. And a 10 megapixel image with Leica glass in front of it to me is better than a 20 megapixel image with a Rokinon. Okay, that's from a long, looking at pictures for a long time. So it's worked for us, and that's why we've used it. Yes,
And that's because you're more, the stuff that you can see is not, you're trying to get the definition of shadows and all that stuff too.
Yes, yes.
That's where image.
That's called squinting the image, and we'll get to that in just a minute. That's another whole process that we go into. But yeah, the getting the definition to be able to zoom down into or drill down into an image before it starts pixelating is what you want to try to get. You want to try to get the best image that you can that won't break down as you zoom into it. Examples, video, we got it, what it looks like. And of course, the downlink is, most of the downlinks except for the light bridge, but most of the downlinks available would only do 700 TV lines. And that's pretty basically VGA. Okay. On the still images that we have been taking, this one is actually a 5 megapixel image, surprisingly enough, but we compensated for it by flying lower. You get closer to the ground, then you end up effectively with the same resolution as you do with a higher resolution imager higher. So this was a 5 megapixel image. This is pretty much our ground zero. This lady went missing 5 miles from my house. The chief called us out, heard about my little bird, said, hey, we got this lady missing, come help us fly this thing and see if you can find her. So we went out, flew 108 degrees, hotter than 10 acres of burning stumps in Texas. We flew to 4 missions, 200 pictures, and they had the mobile crime scene unit out there. We handed them the SD card and said, there's your pictures, we did our job, and we left. 5 days later, someone riding a 4-wheeler happened to come upon this lady's remains. She'd been bit by a rattlesnake. Chief calls us up and says, hey, you guys missed her. How did we miss her? We flew the whole area. So we decided to look at our own pictures, and we looked through them. Lo and behold, that woman was in 14 of those 200 pictures. We didn't interpret the data. We handed it to the detectives and said, here you go, guys, we did our job. Wrong. We didn't do our job. We learned a lesson that day. We needed to look at these pictures because we knew what the content was. We knew what the sensor would do. We could process, or we could post-process it.
Would you use an analytical tool or just do it visually look at each
Okay,
picture?
we're going to get into the tools in just a minute. So we tried to find the lowest common denominator that you could use. What comes with Windows? Picture, fax viewer, right? What can you do with that? Well, you can drill down into the picture. So let's go back to World War II and find out how they did it. Well, they had a big drawing, or a big picture that they took in black and white, and they put the jeweler's loop on it, and they did all that. Well, let's do that different. Let's do it digitally. Put it up in picture viewer, let's zoom down into it and start scanning the picture. So we came up with a methodology to be able to zoom into this picture in quarters and be able to get it to the point where it pixelates and then scan it with the standard issue Mark 1 eyeball. And it worked. Because there's our victim right there. Now, for you geeks out there like me, the lady had on blue jeans. There is very little blue in this picture. Beiges, browns, greens. Her pants were 40 pixels in an L shape. We sent it to a medical object detection software company, and they sent it right back to us and said, here you go, here's your blue object. And we were like, wow, that's great. A computer can do all this good stuff. We want a copy. Right, here's the order forms, $50,000 a seat. Okay, maybe we'll go back to looking at it a little closer. But there she lay, and it was very clear to us as we zoomed into these pictures. You see her feet right here, blue jeans, blouse, and the hair halo. Standard Windows stuff. 5 megapixel picture. And there she was. If we could do it, anybody can do it. Orientation of the image is very important. One of the things that we've discovered is that if you slant forward in an oblique view, you effectively lose 2/3 of your image per view. If you point it straight down in the nadir or mapping, which, okay, see the tie in here, guys? You can be a mapper and you can still do search and rescue because you're used to looking straight down. Your plane is set up, your copter is set up looking straight down. So now we've got another use for our mapping aircraft, right? And it does some good. Nadir imagery is easier to manipulate. If you wanted to do a mosaic, if you wanted to tell incident command and they came up and said, how much area have you flown? How would you do that if you had a bunch of oblique images? It'd be tough. But in nadir view, you can take Pix 4D and do a quick mosaic, and you can put up there to the monitor and incident command and say, this is the area that we covered right here, guys. And they would nod their heads up and down and say, thank you very much, we need that. Information. Give them the information that they need easily. They've got a landmark. They've got a road in. This was a fire, by the way, that we flew. And they've got lat and long. That's what cops understand. Pictures and a couple of numbers, that's what firemen understand, pictures and a couple of numbers. They don't want to see all the other stuff that goes with it. They don't want to see the XYZ, roll, axis numbers. They could care less. This is what they want to see. This is some of the most exciting stuff that we've come on in a while. Using alternate light spectrums in search and rescue. We have moved into an area of research with Texas State University. They have what's known as a body farm. And a body farm is where you go if you sign the back of your driver's license and say, I want to volunteer my body to science. You could end up out in the field in Texas in the sun, decaying. And this is, we're going to show you some of those pictures, but one of the things that we discovered is that near infrared, in this band right here, 800 to 1,000 nanometers, and we've actually gone down into 650 nanometers. We're running 660 right now and are getting some astounding results. Being able to pick out changes in vegetation, changes in the earth. You can see disturbed earth, because unfortunately, as I described earlier, there are many times that when we start a search, it ends up being a homicide investigation. So we're out looking for shallow graves, changes in vegetation, that sort of thing. Crop, there you go, crop pictures. Everybody's doing it, right? So here we go again. All of a sudden, your search and rescue plane has just got another use. We can do agriculture with it. So we're expanding on what we can do when we're doing our search and rescue. The other image over there is just a picture of a normal, healthy tree. And it's looks like black and white. But it's not. It's actually picking up the red, near infrared spectra and absorbing some and reflecting the others, and you can see the difference. Here's our body farm. Doesn't look like much now. Got some folks out there, and what they do at this particular stage, I'll have to give you some gory details, but in this particular stage, these are bug cutters, and they're keeping bugs off of them because they weren't studying bug decomposition and how it affected the cadaver at the time. So we had those on there when we flew this one, but when we flew it in near infrared, look at what we see. Look at that. What the heck? Body started popping out. Yes, sir.
Sorry, Bobby, so the decomposition rate will affect the actual wavelength?
We'll get into that.
That's what the bug cover's on?
That's what the bug cover's on.
Yeah, because it's just the IR goes to the plastic or the materials.
And this is just one wavelength that we're playing with. We've got all the way up to 1,000 nanometers, and then you look at the other end of the spectrum, we've got UV.
So you can literally tell what spectrum to look at depending on how long the body's been gone.
Yes.
Wow, that's awesome.
Okay, and that's why I say this is some really exciting stuff for us. So we discovered that we could see this, and they started a graduate program based on these pictures. And you know, there's a side-by-side comparison of what they're seeing. So what happened is, when they started the graduate program, they started studying what the effects the human body had on the vegetation. And quite simply put, if you're thrown out into a field and you start decomposing, you're mostly nitrogen, right? So if you dump a bunch of nitrogen on the grass, we need to take a break. If you dump a bunch of nitrogen on the grass, it ain't gonna grow, it's gonna burn it, right? So you'll start with, man, I didn't know all this body stuff was gonna run people on. If you start with a highly nitrogenated field, it'll burn the vegetation first, and then as it leaches out, it does just the opposite. It super fertilizes it. So you'll see a change in vegetation as it comes roaring back. And we've started a new term, and that is a cadaver island. So we are now doing studies on cadaver islands using unmanned aircraft and alternate frequencies. So it's pretty cool stuff. Here's fire, false color imagery. Healthy trees, dead trees. They got burned. Doesn't look it. And the full color didn't look it. But there you go. Still burning up. UV. This is fun. We don't even know what we can get out of UV yet. We know what this is, the kind of imagery that is produced when ultraviolet is absorbed by the skin. So it can be even more advantageous to use ultraviolet. We don't even know that yet, so we're still looking through that. GPS. Everybody relies on it, everybody loves it. Can't stand it when it's gone, right? What we added this year is that most flight control systems are also utilizing GLONASS. GLONASS is the Russian version of the American GPS. And from what we've heard, there's less drift and it's highly accurate, and it could be more advantageous to use GLONASS than it is the American GPS. Something to think about. It's got limitations. If you're down in the bottom of this canyon, you ain't getting GPS. You're not going to get enough lock to probably get an aircraft in the air. You won't get maybe 2 satellites. Most flight control systems require 4, 6 before they can take off. Same way with force. This little cartoon is just something about, how do you explain to people how to use GPS? And it's amazing how many people, even in law enforcement and fire, that don't know how to use a GPS handheld. So you have to give them the full picture. You can get the full picture by, they'll see that there's a cliff, or there is a stream, or there is a barbed wire fence, or a high fence, or whatever. So that search team can take your pictures and say, okay, yeah, we've got a Florida stream right here, so everybody take your head boots. Instead of going a half mile, hitting the stream, and go, we got to go back and get boots. So you're saving resources. Again, we've been making this clear all along. You have to know your data, know how to use it, interpret it, and be able to report it. You need to be able to translate it. Between us, we can talk about major imagery and oblique angles and this, that, and the other thing. You walk up to a chief in IC and start spouting that stuff off. They'll look at you like you've got phone going on the top of your head. Because they don't speak that language. You got to say, chief, here's the deal. It's an angle photograph, but this is what you need to see. Mosaics, tell a story. You can slap these together so quick nowadays, it's not even funny. We used to do them by hand. Everybody that's messed with Google Earth and image overlay has done it. Now software is available that you can whip one out and nothing will happen. That's what they understand. That's what these guys know. They don't know that. That's my trigger log out of autopilot. They're like, who? They know that? They understand that. They say, Chief, I just flew that. Okay, cool. You got pictures everywhere where there's a red dot? Yeah, sure did. They got it. By the way, that's our flying field right there. Pretty cool, huh? One of the more storied missions that we flew, I'm sure if you haven't seen it on Drone TV, the one that we highlighted and kind of poked the FAA with was the search for Devin Davis. And this is the image, and I keep track of these things, I don't know why, it's a tribute. This is the 55th image of the first flight. They had spent 5 days prior to us showing up out there searching for this chopper. 200 ground searchers, 4 helicopters, 20 ATVs, 6 horses, 2 mobile command units. We showed up Saturday morning, first flight, 55th image, from 9 to 12 o'clock, we were in our mobile command unit. They were demobbing on the search, and we went with the Texas Rangers, which is one of the most elite law enforcement agencies in the world, and went into that picture and said, hey guys, we got a little red blob right there. And the only clue that we had is the child was wearing a jersey that was raglan sleeves, white shirt, maroon sleeves. That's all we had. The child had on a completely red shirt. And my wife insisted that we go look, even after I kept saying it did not fit the profile that they gave us. She says, I don't care, you need to go look. It's like, okay, sweetie, whatever you say. And unfortunately, that was Devin Davis.
So does it stick in your mind because she was right?
Always. My wife is always right.
Don't
Are you serious?
So is that a swab off of the dock, looks like?
That is, actually, this was in a flood zone. The houses that you saw there had been condemned by FEMA, and they were occupied by squatters. But as you can see, that there is the child right there. It was in early spring. It was alligator mating season. And when I went and flew, I had armed guard with me, M16s, to hold the alligators off. There's an environment for you to go flying, right?
Is he underwater or is it on surface?
He was at the surface. He had surfaced. But just over here, as we were going to clear, there were 2 alligators fighting over something over in this area here, and we were going over to we thought perhaps that was the child's body.
So he could have been underwater and then he could have surfaced if it's 5 days.
Yep.
Yeah, sure.
So he might not have been seen when the first search, but body rises.
Probably, with the temperature of the water, he should have been up the second day.
Okay.
And based on the amount of expansion of the body, that he'd been up a lot. And interestingly enough, we had a kayaker paddle right through here, but this vegetation was so high from his vantage, he couldn't see over there.
It has helicopters too?
Helicopter been there 4 times. We did not see it.
When you're doing these searches and you have things like a red shirt you're looking for, in post-production, can you not just make everything black and white and blow out the reds?
Yes, sir. Yeah, nowadays with Photoshop and those sorts of things where you can put in filters and things like that, absolutely, sir, absolutely. And we encourage that sort of thing.
As long as they get the colors right close. Yeah, exactly.
Anybody know who Andrew Tridgell is? Okay. He's the code guru who wrote the software for the RG Pilot and now the Pixar. And he has come up with a machine vision software that will allow it to pick out objects that you identify. He used it to, just this last year, win the Outback Challenge. And he is very generously giving me the source code of that so I can play with it. But it will go through and identify all the objects that you say you want to look for. It can be 1/2 meter by 2 meters to kind of get a body. Colors, you can identify colors. And it will go through and identify all those. It would pre-qualify all those images for you. And then show you a false color of that. It's a pretty phenomenal piece.
What's it called again?
Well, it's Andrew Tridgell. He's at the University of Canberra.
In Australia.
And he is taking this a long way. They use, I think, 3 megapixel machine vision images and actually transmit thumbnails back down to the ground control station and do pre-processing on board the aircraft with an embedded system. That's the future, guys. That's the future. Okay. This is our flight zone. You see it's identified. Some of the ones, puts a nice blue circle or square around it. Target right there. Oh, let's get picture. Oh, that's the end of the slideshow. Okay. So we did that. We went through everything, talked about some of the basics on search and rescue, some of the things that we've encountered. If you like, we can take a break. If you want to keep going, you just start shooting questions at me, and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
20 minutes.
Pardon me?
It's about 20 minutes. You have 20 minutes.
Okay, good.
Are you using hyperspectral cameras as well?
We use multispectral cameras.
Yeah, so predefined filters, so like the ones that are used now in agriculture. What's your opinion on the hyperspectral cameras? Have you ever tested with those?
The hyperspectral cameras that we've used have been pretty low megapixel, and they really haven't lent themselves to be able to get the kind of detail that we need. They're good for broad brush stuff, and we are going to start testing a multispectral sensor here this summer at the body farm, and see if we can use it to pick out the cadaver items.
Can you say a few words about your Spectre, your bird? What kind of engine does it have, and how much payload can you take?
Okay, the Spectre is a 56-inch wingspan aircraft. It uses a blended wing airfoil. It's made out of vacuum formed ABS, the same thing your bumper is made out of, because you land everywhere. It's got a foam core, glass skin, carbon fiber wing leading edges. And with that, the motor is a
Gas or electric?
it's electric. We use a 5.5 amp battery pack, 3S, and it gives us an hour flying time. It will carry, the aircraft weighs about 1.9 pounds empty, and will fly at 5 pounds all up with the battery. So the battery weighs about 10 ounces, so you can carry about 18 ounces of payload. Most of the cameras that we carry are, in the 10-ounce range. We have flown it in winds up to 50 miles an hour. We flew in a hurricane that made landfall on South Padre Island in Texas, and clocked the winds at 52 miles an hour on takeoff. So that was a lot of fun. It was
Landing
fun.
must have been more interesting.
Well, all you had to do is stand there like that, and it just came straight down and you got it. Because, it was still going as fast as it could go.
What autopilot do you run with it?
We run the Robotic Goose. Most people haven't heard of that one. If you want to go look at it, it's robota.us. This individual wrote a guidance system for the Silver Fox, which is back in the day. Hopefully you know that one. But when they closed down, they got purchased by, a piece of trivia left me, they were purchased by someone, the Silver Fox went away, they were all laid off, and he began making his own flight control system. We've been through approximately a half a dozen of them, and quite frankly, when we're in the situation that we're in, we can't stand having autopilot failure. And if an autopilot fails on us twice, it gets the boot. Pixhawk has never made the cut, sorry. RU Pilot has never made the cut. We've done the Tiny Guidance Engine from Continental Controls, the Proceris, before they got picked up by Lockheed Martin, the Ruby, My Flying Dreams, and we landed on the Robotic Goose, and we've been flying it for 3 years and have never had a failure. Never had a flyaway, never had a malfunction, and that's over the course of one plane flew in the same configuration for 3 years. And we use biological velocity arresters all the time, and that's a treat. If you had to get it in, if you can fly out of a very small hole with a Spectre, because you can launch it, you can climb up at a very rapid rate, which is great for getting out and doing searches, but you got to get back in. So we will point the nose down and head for the first tree that we can see. And hopefully it's low enough so we don't have to climb. But it's been a very robust UA system. We've had very good luck with it, and we have relied on it to go into some very, very far-flung portions of the world, and it's succeeded. And we're very pleased to be able to say that we have never been unable to complete a mission that we've been on since we've been doing it.
What's that website again? Oh, is it Goose or US?
Robata,
Oh,
Goose. Robata,
Thank you, sir.
So do you do, when you do the flight planning, do you do exposure planning, or you just trigger rate fire the camera?
The Robata uses, you plug in the focal length of your lens, and you dial in the desired overlap that you want, up to 80%, or well, you can do 100% overlap if you want, but that's just continuous shooting. And you can do both lateral and horizontal overlap, and an autopilot handles it from there.
Okay, so you just say, this area has this much parameter in the...
It's a point-and-click interface. If you want to do that search grid that you saw in the one, you just put it in there and you stretch it as big as you want. If you raise the altitude, it automatically compensates for the altitude. If you increase the speed, it automatically compensates for the speed. It's really a no-muss, no-fuss system. I'd asked the guy, I told him when I wanted to put it out for search and rescue, I told him I wanted a Fisher-Price ground control station. I wanted 5 buttons on it, so nobody can screw it up. It's not exactly 5 buttons, but it's a pretty straightforward ground control software. Yes, sir.
Use of infrared cameras to do temperature measurement for live people? Is that?
That's a good question. Yes. We've run DRS technologies and FLIR, photons, TAUs, those sorts of things. What most people don't recognize with a 320 by 240, you have slant range that you can't exceed or it won't detect. It's typically, if you think the 320 by 240 tau, the slant range is 1,000 feet.
Before the pixels just get too big?
No, it won't pick it up.
Oh, right.
You're trying to pick up heat.
Atmosphere.
Yeah, you're trying to pick up heat. So the DRS is a little better. We've used it on close-in missions and straight down, where we know we can keep the aircraft at 400 feet, and we know we're well within the sensor's range. And all you got to do is wait for the blip. We've used it. I've got to tell you, we've actually used that more in fire than we have in search and rescue because, as you all know, we don't fly at night. Right. So when we,
What if there's a Western flight? Still no go?
pardon me?
I'm sorry, I'm completely ignorant. I mean, is
No. The FAA has not allowed any night flights of unmanned aircraft.
You with thermal?
No night flights are allowed.
Can't fly
That was the joke. Sorry.
It was sarcasm.
Yeah.
And again,
Every sarcastic. What we do is we do a lot of wildland fires. And what happens is a fire will blow through and they'll put out fires and they'll do the mop up and they'll wait
hotspots.
for a couple of days to see if a hotspot pops up. You can set the Spectra up and fly over there and man, you can pick out those hotspots just like ringing a bell. And as soon as you see them, you call out the GPS waypoint and they got a guy out there with a shovel and a bucket. And he goes in, but they'll spend just a few hours out there getting the hotspots mopped up. They go home and sleep in bed instead of waiting out there for a couple of days to see if they get a rekindle. So there you go. There's another use. Yes, sir.
Have you done any kind of value proposition studies where you show by using your technology you're able to save the state or the X amount of money?
Ad nauseam.
Yeah.
On and on.
And what were the results?
Politics. A prime example of this, I was the chief pilot for the National Institute of Standards and Technology for their wildland urban interface, fire research. We had 5 MLB Superbats equipped with TASE duos, $110,000 an aircraft. We built a mobile command unit for them, had dual video, satellite, the whole 9 yards, completely self-contained. We did such a good job that we worked ourselves out of job. quite frankly. And they said, okay, we're gonna take all this stuff and mothball it. No, that's just like a Greek tragedy, this too much stuff to put away. So we tried to give it to the state of Texas. I figured that'd be a great place for these things to go. We could help them find them, we could, get them set up. So we went down to the governor's bunker and met with the head of the emergency management division, and they thought it was great and everything. See what we can do. Politics killed me. No one wanted to associate their name with drones. $1.3 million that could have been just handed to the state, and they decided not to take it. That complete system went to the Department of the Interior, who had been operating 20 surplus Ravens. The Ravens were still equipped with military bandwidth, which required them to ask for permission 3 days in advance before they could use it. Sometimes they could, sometimes they couldn't. So it was a hit or miss proposition. They were tickled to death to get our Superbats, because they could go anywhere they wanted and fly anywhere they wanted, and they're now happily living in New Mexico, last I heard. So, there you go. Resources, yeah, we've done the whole justification. And one of the things that a lot of people don't understand, well, you've flown a lot of missions and you didn't fly in person. Well, that's true. But it's just as important to know where your victim is not. Think about that a minute. So you need to be able to say that we went and searched and we looked it over and we have a high degree of confidence that that person is not there. So don't expend your resources looking there. They'll refocus it, and that has been key to a lot of finds. We only list a dozen finds that were directly attributed to the use of unmanned aircraft. That's all we do. We don't count the assists. We don't count the ones that we went on and they found and used over here because we were flying over there. But we can tell them where the victim was not. Don't go fly over here. Don't send your people into this real dangerous area because it's swampy, got gators and snakes and all that stuff in there, because we can see there's nothing in there. So, it's saving resources. It's tremendous resources. And the numbers that I gave you on that one search, it would be easy to figure how many dollars per man hour with 200 people and all the equipment and how much it costs to fly a Bell Jet Ranger. Somebody threw out a number of $1 million a day.
1.2 in California, I think.
There you go. And we go out there in 3 hours, search is over. That's a statement. Yes, yes, sir.
So sadly, I think, I think all of your stories are more search and retrieve than search and rescue. Do you have any examples?
Okay,
of?
yeah, I'm sorry. You are correct. Yeah, Mexico, Tijuana. We broke up a human trafficking ring. And we recovered some Guatemalan girls. And it was interesting because we were flying the aircraft within the approach of Generalissimo Gonzales Airport. And we were flying and they were watching the monitor and they were saying, he's not there, come on. So we landed, took off again out of this small little barrio soccer field. Little bitty guy. And they were flying, they were watching the monitor saying, 50 meters more, 50 meters more. And I couldn't see because I was pick. I was not in command. They were like, shoot, shoot, shoot. So we were shooting, carrying pictures, landed, gave it to them. I don't speak any Spanish at all. Okay? So they're getting all excited about what they see in the pictures, and there's approximately 15 officers there. And about halfway through the second flight, they all got really excited, and half of them took off. And they told us to land, and Viatoro, he was the Department of Public Safety colonel, took us to a talk arena and said, it's good, it's all good. We still didn't know what had happened. And they ran us through the presidential corridor, got us over to the other side of the United States, and we went back to San Diego State University, which we'd come out of, and the next day, the West Coast assistant division commander for DHS called us into this little side room and told us what we had done. Apparently there was a van full of girls that they had kidnapped. And we found the van, they found the perp, they found the people who were doing it, they caught the people who were doing it, and they made 2 cops that were in on the deal. And he said, quite frankly, we're astounded that you could do that. We had 45 minutes notice, we went down and did it. He says, but quite frankly, we're in fear for your life.
For your life?
Yeah, for our lives. And we were like, well, you know, gosh, why? Well, it was a cartel. And the cartel knows who you are. Now. So it was a bit disconcerting to have to, I told the guy, I said, I'm leaving for Texas tomorrow. And he said, oh, that's even worse.
So I have a follow-up question. So in a case like this where, you know, real time is of the essence,
Yes.
what kind of features, you said they were looking at the monitor, would they
They were watching video.
Stills as they were down?
They were watching video.
So what kind of features would you want to have in a case like this? Compared to, you have one day to look at the stills after the event.
My perfect system right now would be like a light bridge with high-def video, because it's usable, it's very usable. You can identify vehicles, which that's what we did. We were looking for a van and a pickup truck, which they were in a convenience store parking lot amongst other cars. And we saw that, we shot the still imagery, brought it back, and they were looking at the still imagery at the same time they were looking at the video. So we used it in conjunction, video in conjunction with the stills. And we saw in the stills, we saw the cop taking the bribe, the envelope they gave to him, and escorting the van with the girls out. And then that's when all the guys took off and busted them. So it was probably one of the most thrilling ones I'd ever done. And that's the last time we went to Mexico. We've been doing a lot in Mexico.
You're like Liam Nielsen and Taken.
So yeah?
So you're like Liam Nielsen and Taken.
Yeah, you just,
See all those girls.
you know, you really don't, I mean, and unfortunately, and there's a sad kind of note to this, one of the guys that was with us on that mission was found hanging upside down from a bridge with his head cut off. So, you know, that was, it kind of drove the point home, you know, that you really don't want to mess with those people. And then the FBI had the audacity. Do you remember when they busted this guy called the Stew Maker? It was on national TV. This guy was disposing of bodies that the cartel killed by putting them in vats of acid. And the FBI Joint Terrorist Task Force comes saying, we want you to go down and can you fly this guy's casita and take pictures of it? I was like, you going with me? And he goes, no, I'm going to do this all. You see? Like, hey, you won't even let me carry a weapon in there. And you want me to go fly my airplane? I said, no. And they ended up going in there and they found a bunch of vats of people.
So that's actually a segue to a question I was going to ask you. So the great thing about this is you're helping, right? You're helping to find in a crisis situation, but you also have equipment costs and things that you have to account for. How much of your efforts are is it 100% you donate, volunteer your time, or how do you, is there?
How to monetize it?
How do you monetize that?
Well, I'm not, like, for something like that, it's tough, right? Because you're saving the state so much money, and you're helping out, but I'm not trying to, it sounds like I'm trying to, like, take advantage of the situation, but at the same time,
You provide the service.
yeah. How do you, have you, all the stuff you've done, it's all been free?
It has to be by definition,
Yeah.
unfortunately, you know, and we didn't know, I didn't know that I was going to be as deeply involved in search and rescue or law enforcement support until I did that first mission. I was so profoundly impacted by the ability to find that first person. I said, I got to do this again. I can't stop. I was hooked. And that's another thing that you have to watch out for when you go into search and rescue. You need to be careful for what you wish, because you may get it in spades.
So then your other activities, kind of just allow you to pay for your alternative lifestyle?
We do have RP Search Services is a 501c3, which is a nonprofit charity. I did that for the FAA and their original restriction on commercial activities. So by definition by the IRS, I was a non-commercial entity. But I couldn't get them to talk. They would not, one agency won't talk together. So that's what I did. And I do work on donations, and I can take donations to the 501c3, and that helps fund the searches that we go on. That's another avenue. If you wanted to pursue that, you could. Lowest learners no longer in there signing the papers, but you know, somebody is in there as long as you don't say you're a Tea Party. You should be in good shape. Yes, sir.
Would you be able to identify any sort of pitfalls, either on the operational side or on the politics side? Or would you care to?
We don't have enough time. There's a lot, I mean, the FAA is really starting to come around, and they're looking into these things on an next-gen
Or is
basis.
this covered in your book?
No, this is developments that are so recent. I mean, I'm talking about in January. And they're starting to look at these sort of operations in a favorable light.
Favorable.
In a favorable light, yes. And we're getting a younger set of people in there that are more thinking and see that the future is coming in unmanned aircraft, and get some of the old guard out, and it helps. Yes, sir.
So, question: do you have like, what is your cost out of pocket to go do a search and rescue? You take you, your equipment, how many people with you? You know, because I know that you're tagging in and helping another search and rescue outfit, but you're not going by yourself. I'm assuming you're taking other people that know the equipment.
Yes.
You know, and that kind of stuff. Have you ever figured out your out-of-pocket expenses?
I got about halfway through that spreadsheet and scared the hell out of me, and I quit.
I get that. I've been there. So.
When you consider that we've got a nice Ford van, hop-top van, we've built into another command station, works great, got 7 kW generator, we can go out. And it cost me, or it only gets 10 miles to the gallon. And there's never a search that's near you. But we'll go. Say, for example, the Devin Davis search. That was 4 hours, one leg. Well, $100 to fill up and go there, $100 to come back. Just in gas costs. And I didn't put anything in there for oil, maintenance, insurance, anything else. My time. And I got 4 hours there, that's 1 man day. I take 2 guys with me, that's 3 man days. Oh, stop. Let's don't go through. Because, you know, by the time you get to looking at those numbers, you wouldn't do it.
Okay, another part of that is the platforms you guys provide. You guys figured out, I know it's really hard with UAVs because you don't know the life cycles. I mean, they're still relatively new.
Oh, I got life cycles. I've got an aircraft that, most of my aircraft retire. I retire them because they reach what I determine is a mean time between failures that I don't want to exceed.
What is that mean time?
The last aircraft went 3 years.
Okay, what's the actual usage over that 3 years? I guess is what hours. Yeah, like
Hours-wise?
Yeah, do you do hours, do flight-wise, landings? You know, because 3 years for one company might be, 30 flights. For another company might be 1,000.
We did, one year we logged very religiously, and we were doing average 1 to 2 searches every 2 weeks. And a typical search would be anywhere from 2 to 6 flights.
At close to one.
Yeah, that close to an hour. And we ended up doing a couple in some other states where we did as many as 50 flights. Close to an hour at a pop. We mapped a whole county on a Georgia case. So when you start adding those hours up, 52 weeks, and 26, you may end up, hundreds of hours.
Well, that's a big thing I've seen with the, FAA right now is saying follow manufacturers, maintenance schedules, that kind of stuff. I've yet to see a manufacturer out there that has a maintenance schedule, a life cycle you know, or something like that, and it's figuring it out. I mean, most of the platforms that my company uses are stuff that we've modified and we've figured out, life cycle of bearings, mean time of failure, and that kind of stuff. But I'm wondering, you know, there's no fixed, I pulled it out of my ass like everybody else has.
You're correct, and when the ASTM finally gets their committee done, and they set that up, then you're gonna see the cost of the equipment that we utilize going up.
So, to add on to that, so the cost of your equipment, say, if you were to like make a case to, like, especially you since you've done so much, could you go to a company that, you know, like Sony or wherever it gets you get your optics from, and convince them to donate it? Could they donate to that charitable? Sure. And that's a way to acquire equipment where they get the write-off and you get the donation and then you could use it.
Makes the band heavier than the sticker, right?
If they want it, sure. Have they done it? Nope. Have I asked? Yep. You know, this is kind of something that my passion lies in. I want to do this because I like doing it. And we even got into the argument with the FAA. I said, you know, look, this is my hobby. Anyway, no. But when you look at the amount of money that I spend personally to go do these searches and the frequency that I do them with, how do you categorize it than anything else? Because I don't make money.
Yeah.
So it's one of those kind of conundrum things that, you know, it is what it is.
Question. So given, you know, you're a little off normal, you know, I mean, in a good way, do you think is it best set up for a services industry, companies that are going and helping law enforcement agencies, or is it best set up where you train law enforcement people and they have a couple of cases?
Here's my vision, and you know,
And how is this any different from a company that produces disaster response communications equipment and trucks?
Very little, very little. Okay, and this is where we're going to go with the service end of this that will be important. You'll be able to go to an agency, you'll be able to provide them with service, and you'll be able to charge them for it. They have contracting monies to do that with. The cities have contracting monies to do that with. So does the counties. So you have to be creative about it right now because, well, you have to have the exemption first. But when it becomes normal for people to be flying UAs around like we hope it to be, then it's going to be you provide the service to whatever municipality will pay you for it. Just like any engineering service or surveying service or comms, like you said, they don't care. So that's my vision. You'll end up being a service provider.
Service provider.
Yeah. There are many police departments out there that are trying to stand up their own UA.
There's no set SOP, there's no set of regulations.
You're correct. And they're all floundering around to their own, you know, procedures and processes and that sort of thing. Yeah. And I think we're about to be run out of room, so that's going to conclude this little presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you do decide to embark on this, it will be one of those gratifying things that you'll be able to do. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks, Jim. You bet. Yes.
I'd like to know more about what I was in mind.
No,
I don't.